Okay, we have a few things left in policy. By the way, I'm at home recording this so that you can be at home listening to this. And my numbering is off because I had to pare it down from the other AP government class. But social welfare policy is anything, as you can see, that is designed to help improve other people's lives. So different countries have different kinds of extremes. For example, if you go to Scandinavia, you guys would be going to college for free next year. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, those are two other examples of going to college for free. But if you're in Scandinavia, you're paying a much higher tax amount than we are in the United States. The other extreme, you could say, well, really the only thing government has to do for you is protect you and provide for the common defense. So we're somewhere in the middle. You can see some examples. We have health, i.e. Medicare, Medicaid. We certainly have school. We have welfare for a minimum of 90 days in this country. And the definition, though, keeps changing, expanding, and contracting. So that's the first thing, is the definition of social welfare policy. Give you a couple of examples we have in our federal budget. The first one is means tested, and the second one, excuse me for having my kind of lettering off, is non-means tested. So non-means tested means everybody gets it who have met the lowest threshold. And by lowest threshold, I believe it's 10 years paying into the Medicare and Social Security systems to get some amount. And remember, Medicare is health care for the elderly, and Social Security is retirement for the elderly. Social Security was started by FDR. It was started when they figured out the average age of death was 65, and they said that's the age where starts Social Security. Obviously, the problem now is that people are living much longer, and while Social Security is in some trouble, Medicare is in much more trouble. And it's predicted by 2020 that we're going to have not enough money to cover all the payments that are having to be made at that point. Means tested means that you had to do something beyond the bare minimum to get it. So Medicaid is health care for those who are poor, who meet the definition of poor. Supplementary security income is an additional income for those, again, who are poor. Earned income tax credit. For example, my children, since I have 3 of them, I get $1,000 off for each child for my tax return, and so that's one example of tax credits. Also under social, welfare is welfare, and it used to be called AFDC, Aid to Families with Dependent Children. It is now called Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. The acronym is TANF. Probably you could see that on a test as multiple choice. If you ever saw it as a free response, you would see the Welfare Reform Act of 1996. Bill Clinton was running for re-election. He was running against Republican Bob Dole, who kept talking about getting people off of welfare, and so Bill Clinton introduced it into Congress, got it through, and took it off of the table as an election option for Bob Dole. You can see several of the things on there. No food benefits for legal immigrants. Legal. That was very controversial amongst the Democrats. Bill Clinton said it would be taken out. It wasn't. The second thing is single moms with kids over 5 have to go back to work. They are given some time to go get job skills, but ultimately they have to go back to work. And unmarried mothers, so people your age, 18, under 18, have to live at home, the thought being that they would finish their schooling in order to get the welfare. Lifetime benefit of 5 years. Now, of course, the law could change at any time, but right now that total of 5 years, you have to get off within 2 years, and you can see someone in my age bracket who has no kids has to get off in 90 days, and no benefits for anyone who's ever been convicted of a drug felon. The key word here is devolution. And devolution means to go back or to go down. In this case, go down to the states. This is an example of cooperative federalism. where the states and the federal government work together to implement the welfare program that, again, a Democrat, one would think it would be more Republican, but Democrat Bill Clinton took as a more conservative idea, and there you can see him about ready to sign the act. Okay, other examples. The first one down the bottom is the Family Leave Medical Act. You are allowed to take 3 months off for an emergency, or to have children, or to adopt children. Another Bill Clinton initiative, Title IX, for those of you who want to go into sports in college, goes back to 1972. It simply says that all educational opportunities should be the same for male and female. It was not intended to be for sports, but it's gone that way, and it means that roughly it's interpreted that half of the salaries of coaches and half of the scholarships for men and women in college must be equal. Therefore, if you have a men's football team, you have to have that many more teams on the other side for female. And when I say equal, I mean equal to the population. So if there are 53% women, since there's slightly more women going to college than men, then you have to have that much more percentage of scholarships and money in the athletic departments. It's also now gone into high schools. For example, at our school at Hayfield, the baseball team years ago raised the money for the lights on the field, and then the softball coach went to our board of supervisors who run the county and said it's not fair. The boys have lights, and the county had to cough up the money. Other counties have turned off boys' lights when there wasn't the money for a girls' team. Occasionally, it's the opposite. If you go to my last school, Broad Run, the girls had a very nice facility. And so the Redskins, interestingly enough, helped raise the boys some money so they could have an equally nice one. Okay, the next policy we have to talk about briefly is foreign policy. You have two people there in the picture, Leon Panetta and Hillary Clinton, both of whom are obviously Democrats, both of whom are on the way out. Probably we'll see them both gone within the next year. Leon Panetta is the Secretary of Defense. He is in charge of the entire military establishment. Beneath him is the top military person, referred to as the chairman or the chairperson of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Beneath the chairperson of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is a chief of staff of each of the military branches. Hillary Clinton is in charge of the Secretary of the Department of State, which runs our foreign policy. In this case, the U.S. is a state on the world scene, and she is what we call leads the diplomats who are our Americans who go abroad and help out Americans who are abroad, be they travelers or business people. In terms of foreign policy, what can the president do? You can see all these things. These are all things that we've gone through before. I'm going to let you pause and you can write them down or just refresh your mind on them. In terms of Congress, I got a picture of Mr. Boehner, the Speaker of the House, and Majority Leader Reid, and these of course are all the things that the Congress can do, and they're pretty much the flip of the president. Again, I'll let you pause to make sure you got it. Last but not least, we have environmental policy. Again, we're looking at different policies of the federal government in different areas. The EPA was started under Richard Nixon. He was a very environmentally friendly president. I think that Democrats are more accepted now as being that way, but he was a Republican. He started the EPA back in 1970. But two other things he got through were the Clean Water Act, which set standards so that you can literally not get sick in your drinking water, and every once in a while you're going to read about a storm in the Washington, D.C. area which closes reservoirs because of burst pipes, and so people are asked to conserve their water. Often happens in the summer. And then the Clean Air Act, again another Richard Nixon one. We, for example, have to get our cars checked every other year because in Fairfax County we are always close to the highest level of what pollutants we can have in the air, and that's one of the reasons, for example, when you get on 123, 236, Telegraph Road, kind of the major thoroughfares, Fairfax County Parkway, that you will notice some days you just fly through and you hit every green light, and some days you hit every red light. The thought being they're trying to get more people on the green lights, because every time you start up, you're pushing the pollutants into the air. And so that, again, is the Clean Water Air Act. And we get money from the federal government, another cooperative federalism example, to keep our air quality in being a certain level from the federal government. There are a bunch of, and I've only given two, interest groups. There are some like the Wilderness Society, which actually buys up land so that people can never live there. Two better known ones, the Sierra Club. Sierra Club and Greenpeace. Greenpeace is much more controversial. They're the ones who occasionally hear about people chaining themselves to trees to stop loggers from tearing them down. The Sierra Club does something that I guess is becoming a bit passe, but if you join the Sierra Club, you get a beautiful calendar every year, so beautiful that you can buy it, say, at Barnes & Noble, and it's an enticement to get people to join, because obviously if you're saving the environment, you're helping everybody, and so it's harder to get people to join these groups, just as it would be harder to get people to join the AARP, for example. That's the short of this. If you have any questions, you want to make sure you add the questions to the document below this YouTube video, and we'll go over those questions first in class, and then we'll have our quiz.